Howdy, howdy. How are we? Give a minute or two for people to roll in. Boom, ba-dum, boom, boom. How's your Saturday been, Nomad? My computer's acting funny, but I think it'll be fine. It's working at least. Guess we should be reading Mark Twain today, huh? His birthday. I didn't share this anywhere. Gonna share it real quick and then we'll get started. Hey, Simon. All right. Let us begin with Proverbs 30 from the King James. The words of Agur, the son of Jacob, even the prophecy, the man spake unto Ithiel, even to Ithiel to you call. Surely I'm more brutish than any man, and have not the understanding of a man. I neither learned wisdom nor had the knowledge of the holy. Who hath ascended up into heaven, or descended? Who hath gathered the wind in his fist? Who hath bound the waters in a garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is his son's name? If thou canst tell. Every word of God is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. And thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. Two things have I required of thee. Deny me them not before I die. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty or riches. Feed me with food, garment convenient for me, lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my God in vain. Accuse not a servant unto his master, lest he curse thee, and thou be found guilty. There is a generation that curseth their father, and doth not bless their mother. There is a generation that are pure in their own eyes, and yet is not washed from their filthiness. There is a generation, oh, how lofty their ears, and their eyelids are lifted up. There is a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth as knives, to devour the poor from off the earth, and the needy from men among men. The horse leech hath two daughters, crying, give, give. There are three things that are never satisfied. It would probably help if I had my microphone here, huh? It's Saturday. Is that better, Nomad? Let's see. Yea, four things say it is enough. Say not, it is enough. The grave and the barren womb, the earth that is not filled with water, and the fire that saith not, it is enough. The eye that mocketh at his father and despiseth to obey his mother. The ravens of the valleys shall pick it out, and young eagles shall eat it. So with the valley is talking about a brook. There be three things which are too wonderful for me, yea, four which I know not. The way of an eagle in the air, the way of a serpent upon a rock, the way of a ship in the midst of the sea, and the way of a man with a maid. Such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth and wipeth her mouth and saith, I have done no wickedness. For three things the earth is disquieted, and for four which it cannot bear. For a servant when he reigneth, and a fool when he is filled with meat. For an odious woman when she is married, and a handmaid that is heir to her mistress. There be four things which are little upon the earth, but they are exceedingly wise. The ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their meat in the summer. The conies are but a feeble folk, yet make their houses in the rocks. The locusts have no king, yet go they forth, all of them by bands. The spider taketh hold with her hands, and is in kings' palaces. There be three things which go well, yea, four are comely in going. a lion which is strongest among beasts, and turneth not away for any, a greyhound and he goat also, and a king against whom there is no rising up. If thou hast done foolishly in lifting up thyself, or if thou hast thought evil, lay thine hand upon thy mouth. Surely in churning of milk bringeth forth butter, and the bringing of the nose bringeth forth blood. So the forcing of wrath bringeth forth strife. I really do enjoy the flowery language of the KJV, as I've said before. It winds very well, but the poetic nature of the Tanakh in the writings too is something I greatly enjoy. All right, the Tanakh. The words of Agur, the son of Yahweh, the oracle, utterance of the man Ithil unto Ithil and Ucal. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it as the Hebrew. So verse 1, the words of Agur, as the heading makes clear, the unit that follows, which probably ends with verse 9, is distinct from the rest of the book of Proverbs. The two terms that follow oracle, Masa, and utterance, Naum, are probably reserved for Vedic or prophetic speech, a kind of discourse uncharacteristic of Proverbs, which follows is a first person, incipiently confessional statement, unlike anything that has preceded in this book. The name Agur is otherwise unattested. To Ithil and Ucal, these names have the repetition as enigmatic. Many scholars revocalize them and change the word divisions and consonant text to yield three verbs. Thus, Fox proposes the following: I am weary, God, I am weary, and had wasted away. Although it is possible that this was the original reading in the Hebrew, there is no warrant for it in the ancient version, and it remains conjectural. So what did... Okay, they just changed Yake to Jekka. I knew there was a difference. For I am a brute among men, and no human discernment have I. I have not learned wisdom, nor the knowledge of the holy ones do I know. I have not learned wisdom. This proclamation is a counterpoint to the prevailing emphasis of Proverbs. Agur, humbly aware of his limitations before the transcendent God, see the next verse, says, in effect, that any wisdom he might have pretended to attain amounts to nothing. Hey, Double D's. No, I had my mic like way away from me. And as I would look down to read, I think my voice would fade. Hope you're doing well, Double D's. So the knowledge of the holy ones, while an exe- exe- exegetical tradition going back to the Middle Ages, understands Kedoshim as the Holy One. The Hebrew noun is plural. It is true that the most common name for God, Elohim, is plural in form, although singular in meaning. But the evidence of the Kedoshim works in the same way is not altogether convincing. The most likely reference would be to angelic beings. So many times in the Old Testament, although not acknowledged in the New Testament, many times the actual translation in Hebrew is encounters with angels was actually encounters with God. When Judah wrestled with the angel, he was actually wrestling with God. Yeah, I do too, Simon. I should say ahoy. Ahoy, mateys. The I kept kind of giggling to myself reading in the KJV because he kept saying be like and very very piratey prose. Uh, I tried not to make it too known, but since you said ahoy, I I had to use that. Okay, voice four. Who has gone up to the heavens and come down? Who has scooped up the wind in his palms? Who has wrapped up the waters in a cloak? Who has raised up all ends of the earth? What is the name of his son that you should know? So, who has gone up to heaven and come down? Only someone who could negotiate this trajectory, patently impossible for mortal man, would be capable of achieving divine wisdom. The waters, the earth, these are two principal elements of the biblical cosmogony. What is the name or the name of his son? So, this formulation has obviously invited Christological readings that would not have been within the purview of the Hebrew poet. Writing several centuries before the emergence of Christian doctrine, in the patrilineal society of ancient Israel, a man's full name was his given name, and the name of his father, for example, Isaiah, son of Amoz, as in our society, is the given name and the family name. So, when Christians point to this verse as being Christological, it is not a in any way um, Christological. It is just just we can assume someone that Agar knew's son. Oh no, I'm sorry, Double D's. At least y'all got some time together and got to take care of the important work of getting married. Just catch it when you can. We we're always here. Every saying of God is pure. He is a shield to all who shelter in him. Adding nothing to his words, lest he rebuke you and you be given the lie. Adding nothing to his words, this injunction is in keeping with Deuteronomy 4:2. The burden of this verse, the and the preceding one is pious counterweight, perhaps to for that reason appealing to the editor to the idea of wisdom as a kind of craft with human instructors that predominates in the book. All wisdom comes from God through his revealed words, and no more mere human should tamper with them. And that is a common theme throughout the scriptures. Even the New Testament, as much as I will argue against the religion, even Jesus said that the word shouldn't be changed one jot or one tittle, and no one should depart from the law. And then not 20 years later, people were writing about how not to follow the law. And except with Todd, I don't go on the attack of Christianity. Many of my family are Christians, so as I have made clear before. Let's see. I want to. So Deuteronomy 4:2. You shall not add to the word that I charge you, and you shall not subtract from it to keep the commands of the Lord your God, which I charge you. So Jeffrey H. Tigay proposes that this strict constructionist view of Mosaic teaching is intended to be limited to the injunction to the worship of a single God. One is not free to add other objects of worship, nor to remove. YHWH as the other object of worship. But such cultic sense of subtract is rather strained, and it is more likely that Moses here is represented in joining strict construction precisely in order to diminish any impression, in fact, abundantly warranted impression, that Deuteronomy is affecting a revision of a good many oral laws and traditions. So that's the that would be the first instance of not adding nor subtracting from the word. Double D's. That's a hard fought 2 weeks. My ex talks about how long the time always was when I was gone, and I was 200 plus days gone for 12 years. So okay. 2 things I have asked of you. Do not withhold from me before I die. The existential urgency is a piece with Ager's distinctive confessional mode. Falsehood and lying words keep far from me. Privation and wealth do not provide me my allotted bread. So that's a bit different than what we read in the KJV, right? This clause does not constitute a third thing, but is simply the condition to which Agur aspires after his two wishes are granted: freedom from falsehood, neither privation nor wealth, and then he will be content with a modest material sufficiency. I think the general idea was the same, but again, you're dealing with a Shakespearean style prose. Oops. Let's see. Probably shouldn't close this one because so this one, going back to the KJV, remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. So not that big of a difference. It just kind of flows differently. Lest I be sated and I renounce and I say, who is the Lord? And lest I lose all and I steal and profane the name of my God. So too many worldly goods may lead a person to feel as he has no need for God. Compare that to Deuteronomy 32:15. Unless I lose all and I steal and profane the name of my God. These words sketch out a miniature narrative. First, the person dismisses God and as he reveals in his abundant possessions, then he becomes impoverished and resorts to crime, thus profaning God's name. So it's a serious thing to say someone will profane God's name in the 613 commandments. Profaning the name of God is actually, and that's not saying GD or anything like that. But profaning the name of God is is one of the two unforgivable sins. And despite what most Christians are taught, as I was taught when my dad converted and became a pastor, that that Jews need an intercessor with the priest. We don't. The sacrifice was always for unintentional sins that you may have committed and not realize you had committed a sin. Let's see. What was it? 32:15. Help if I was in the right book. So I think that I told y'all that the Tanakh is broken up in in 3 different books, right? So you have the books of Moses. What we're reading from is the writings, and then you have the prophets. So Deuteronomy 32:15. Make sure. Okay. And Jehoram fattened and kicked. You fattened and you thickened, grew gross, and abandoned the God who had made him, and despised the rock of his rescue. So Jeshurun, an epithet for Israel, since the etymology suggests straight, its use here is ironic, as the poem pointedly associates crookedness with Israel. So this is one of the times that Israel was in trouble with God. So the poem was talking about the straight becoming crooked. Let's see. Verse 10. Do not denounce a slave to his master, lest he revile you and you bear guilt. This proverb, in the form of a negative injunction, is unlike the words of Agar in form and substance, and also could not belong to the generation sequence that begins in the next verse. An editor may have inserted it here because, like both lines of verse 9, it has a lest clause or an unless clause. A generation that reviles its father and its mother, it does not bless. Here begins an independent unit of 4 verses, 5 lines of poetry that deploys a generation as an empathetic anaphora at the beginning of every line, but the last, the content is purely denunciatory in a style reminiscent of the prophets. And there is nothing here but negative characterizations of the generation in a series of subordinate clauses with no actual grammatical predicate. So here here's one place that we run into that a lot of people will say, oh, this generation coming up is the worst. This is the generation that was spoke of in Proverbs, right? Since this was written, every preceding generation has said this about the next generation. We fall into these logical traps, and we want to think that the next generation is the worst or whatever. Every generation has our challenges. I remember Gen X, our preceding generation, thought we were quite literally, in the words of the poet Beck, losers, baby. So let's see, 12. A generation that is pure in its eyes, though it has not been washed of its filth. The Hebrew soha implies excremental filth, though it is not really scatological. A generation, how haughty its eyes, and its eyelids, how arrogant. A generation whose teeth are swords and meat cleavers in its jaws, to devour the lowly from the earth, and the impoverished from humankind. So the relatively rare term ma'akelet, also used in the story of the binding of Isaac in Genesis 22. I'm not going to read the full chapter of Genesis 22. Is not an ordinary knife, but a kind of knife used to butcher meat. The leech has two daughters. It's funny that in the KJV it says the horse leech. So I've never really looked into the difference there. So the leech has two daughters. Give. Three things that are not sated, four that do not say enough. Okay. There's a weird break there. Three things, four. This little numerical progression is traditional in a certain line of biblical poetry. In Amos 1:3, it says, "For 3 trespasses of Damascus, and for 4, I will not turn back." "16. Sheol and a block womb. The earth is unsated with water and fire, which does not say enough." Sheol and a blocked womb. A parallelism between Sheol, the biblical netherworld, and the womb appears elsewhere in biblical poetry. H.N. Bialik, the great modern Hebrew poet, in a poem expressing revulsion after a sexual encounter with a woman, refers to her hidden treasures like Sheol cannot be sated. Here, Sheol is never sated with the death, always wanting more, and the blocked womb, in an ironic antithesis, is never satisfied with the condition of barrenness, always hungry to produce life. Hey, Jenny. Doing well, doing well. An eye that mocks a father and scorns submission to a mother, the rooks of the river will gouge it, and the eagle's young will devour it. Three things are there too wondrous for me, and four that I cannot know. The eagle's way in the heavens, the way of a snake on a rock, the ship's way in the heart of the sea, and the way of a man with a young woman. There's a kind of wry wit in the sequence. The speaker imagines bird, reptile, and vessel passing through the remote regions of sky, earth, and sea that are bound beyond his ken. Then the fourth term invokes another place inaccessible to the imagination of the male speaker, a woman's sexual mystery, known only to her lover. The preposition in here before a young woman is meant to be understood literally, that is, in a physiological sense, as many interpreters through the ages have in fact understood it. Sorry, my computer's still acting weird.
This is the way of an adulterous woman. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I did nothing wrong. So I think there is a big difference here. No, that's not. Let's see. This worldly observation interrupts the series of four sayings. It may have been inserted here because the way and because of the sexual reference at the end of the preceding verse. She eats and wipes her mouth. Elsewhere in Proverbs, an analogy between mouth and vagina is implied. Yeah, right. Let's see. 23. Okay. Four things are the smallest on earth, yet are the very wisest. Let's see. So, though diminutive in size, they invents wisdom in how they dispose themselves. This proverb thus celebrates the value of wisdom over sheer size or strength and implies that people should learn from these small creatures. The ants, a people not strong, who ready their bread in the summer. The badgers are a people not mighty, who make their home in the cleft. The locusts, who have no king, and march out all in a row. While it is questionable whether locusts assemble themselves in such neat formation, the idea is suggesting by the perception of the mass of locusts as an invading army that sweeps away everything in its path, despite the smallness of the individual constituents. Let's see. The spider who can be caught with hands, yet is in the palace of kings. There's some doubt about the identity of this creature. In any case, it is something small and easily caught, probably some sort of insect that nevertheless is able to do what no ordinary human can, penetrate the palaces of kings. Now, I don't really, I mean, I don't know why it would be anything other than a spider. So I'm not necessarily in agreement with the translator here. The palace of kings, the Hebrew has a plural for palace and a singular for kings. Three things stride handsomely, and four things handsomely walk. The lion, mightiest of beasts, who does not turn back from anything. The rooster and the he goat, and the king against whom none can stand. The Hebrew word zarzir has been identified with several different creatures. Compounding the puzzle, it is attached here to the noun motnahim, lions, and nobody has come up with a satisfactory explanation of the epithet, if that is what it is. I don't know. I think understanding that roosters don't really back away from much. They're pretty aggressive at times, especially like fighting roosters. I had a great uncle that fought roosters all the time back when I was a kid, and they were some mean creatures. And he goats, they're mean as anything out there. Let's see, 32. If you have been a scoundrel and arrogant, and if you have schemed, put a hand on your mouth. For squeezed milk produces butter, and a squeezed nose produces blood, and squeezed patience produces a quarrel. Yeah, it's a brutal fight, Jenny. So this entire verse has the ring of a folk saying. The term mitts, squeeze, literally squeezing of, has been stretched in the saying to cover churning of milk, though that is not its usual meaning. Patience. Some understand the Hebrew apayim to mean wrath. The singular form af means precisely that. But the dublative apayim, when it does not mean face, appears only in the idiom erik apayim, patience, literally long or slow in anger. The idiom, in fact, occurs several times in Proverbs. If you push milk hard, it turns into something else, butter. If you push a nose hard, it spurts blood, something that does not usually come out of a nose. And if you push someone's patience hard, it turns into impatience, leading to a quarrel. Quarrel. So I was so into that, I didn't realize we were done. So tomorrow we'll go back to chapter 1, and read through, and we should have 31 days of it. So we'll do the full 31 on. I know everybody's going to be busy towards the end of the month, but I'll at least have them recorded so you can go back to them. So anyway, I am going to restart my computer because it's being weird. And I will see you guys in about 30 minutes for some 1054 and all that. Okay. All right. Be well.